Yeah, I used to be like really defensive of the idea that, a lot of these online platforms were, part of the real world. But, after seeing just how completely biased, YouTube tends to be politically speaking, and how, massively conservative the comment section happens to be, I don't think you guys are representative of the real world at all. I really don't, as far as the platform's concerned. Um, maybe I should lighten up a little bit on Upchurch, in the sense that I guess you could say that this is a person that is producing in a genre of music that I've never appreciated in the first place. So, you know, maybe from the perspective of somebody that's always loved country, then he's been, such a great thing. See, I've been having these thoughts for a while now. First of all, I really have actually. I used to think that I hated folk music, right? I used to think that I was not really a big fan of that particular genre, and then my dad started showing me this stuff where there was this folk rock, fusion that had taken place in the mid '70s with artists like Steel Eye Span ultimately. And he showed me like the work of like Long Lincoln, and it connected pretty much instantaneously. And ever since, my taste in music has been pretty heavily influenced by folk, which is one of my way, like the one way that like I can actually connect somewhat musically to that, um I guess you could say like non like elitist, mentality of, connecting with like just ordinary people, instead of just, people that are just, exceptional in some capacity. But yeah, I am very much so a fan of the folk rock revolution that, started taking place in the late '60s, '70s, and has on gone into the current world. So I guess you could say my perspective on Upchurch though is like, oh boy, country rap have fused into each other like two of my least favorite things. Like it's like, why don't you, like, I know that some combinations go like, so like like I said, some combinations are complementary, but some of them end up coming together in a way that doesn't harmonize and actually just subtract from each other. And unfortunately that's how I feel about him and his music. It's like, you mix two things and together, and sometimes you get something that's really great, and then sometimes you mix two things together and it comes out like in this abhorrent shit show of a product. So like, I was never all that into rap either, to be entirely honest with you. Like R&B, hip hop, and either of those two, and those two things have been just absolutely huge in America, as far as our experience is concerned. Like, you can't get away from them anymore. And the fact of the even if you wanted to, the fact of the matter is that I kind of was more into like the old, like early '90s version of it than I was what came after. So no, I've not been a big fan of it. I don't mind Eminem. I'm not like a huge hater of his. I guess you could say that like my perspective towards them is like neutrality, not into it, not hating it. I like that he went after Trump ultimately, and I have respect for him in that regard. We're ultimately on the same side of the aisle politically speaking, and it's good to have somebody that's that big, ultimately on our side. But I was never huge into him. I mean, I had friends that were, though. So I guess you could say that like I'm not ultimately a fan of what's been going on, in that scene. I guess you could say that when it comes to like the country music side of the equation, I would bigger fan of like Casey Musgraves than I would be Upchurch. So I mean that's my perspective on the whole thing. Well, I think that Casey Musgraves would be a step in the right direction for where I'd like to see things go in Nashville, and Upchurch is a regression backwards to where I'd like to see it get away from. So, I mean, that's how I see it.